can start with, my name is Sharon Avraham. I was born in Israel to a mixed family of Jewish, Arab, and Western Europeans. I served in the Israeli Defense Forces as an infantry fighter. I'm an artist. I'm a community researcher and a peace activist. And I would love to talk to you today about a little bit of how to use participatory leadership to create communities between communities in conflict or countries in conflict.
Cool. Hi, Sharon. My name is Eldar. I'm originally from Kazakhstan, but now living and residing in UAE, in Dubai, working here in the real estate industry. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. What about the rest?
I can introduce myself as well. He's Evgeny speaking from Berlin. I originally was born in Russia with Jewish roots, moved to Germany, so I can relate to different cultures. And I am working on a mission or on a purpose of New Mittelstand. This is something that should become part of the purpose economy session at 3 p.m. today. So whoever wants to join to learn more, maybe see you later in a room 3.
Amazing. Belen, I think you're the last one.
Hi, how are you, everyone? My name is Belen Martin. I'm based in Barcelona, Spain. I am an attorney. My specialty is data privacy. I'm interested in well, I think with the current situation, I think leadership it's changing. And I think, I just wanted to attend this session because I thought the headline was very interesting and the topic as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. I can say that my expertise in action, not unless I'm talking. So I'm going to do my best to explain my work, and feel free to ask questions or barge in, as I see we're a small group. If there's anything you want me to expand on, just go ahead and ask. I can share a little bit, just a little bit of the background. Like, I was born in Israel, and I was affected by the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in many sides as a kid who grew up to exploding buses in the streets and terror acts and a lot of stories around fear and violence. And as a young man, as a combat soldier, being part of the system of violence myself, experiencing it firsthand. And gladly now on the other side of fighting against the system and trying to break down these systems of power or oppression through community building, and through cultural acts, and through creating coalitions together. So a little bit about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We're by now around 100 years of conflicts, where we have 2 different communities that are struggling on the same piece of land. The narratives of these 2 communities conflict as they both see differently their connection to this land. We have, as the Jews, we have the whole Bible story, so this was the promised land. And the Arab Palestinians who are living here for hundreds of years, of course, see this land as their own and have a strong connection to it as well. But in these 100 years of conflicts, we had one community, the Israeli community, who grew stronger and stronger, and in fact were able to enforce their beliefs on the other community, on the Palestinian community who is living there, and pretty much force them to live as we see fit on this land. And by the way, all of the photos here are photos I took as a photographer. So these are actually for my time in the army, in serving in the West Bank. And one of the things when you grow up in a country like this, when you grow up in this reality, there's a lot of dynamics of dominations between the Israelis and Palestinians and within ourselves. And this, like you see here, photos from the, from example, from a training that we need to play out the Palestinian side and actually fight among each other. And you could see that at the moment as the Israeli soldiers were like raising the Palestinian flags and putting their uniforms, they started to act exactly like this other side that we were seeing. And this training was actually very violent, even if we were both from the same side. So like this whole time of serving in the Israeli army really creates the reality of the archetype of the enemy, the occupier from the Palestinian side, the terrorist from the Israeli side. And everyone is like divided to different camps that are dehumanizing each other, and you can't really see the other side as an equal human who have the same ambitions as you. So this was 3 years of serving in the West Bank as a fighter, learning about the local population from a daily encounters that I had like a daily relationship of, from one hand, fear from everything I was told about what the Palestinians are, and also a lot of compassion, because in 99% of the times, the encounters were very human. And you can see how much I could feel how much I have a control of the lives of the civilians over there. And when you see every day, you just see people going to work and trying to live their lives, you have a lot of compassion. And this is also where this fraction in me started to try and started really to ask myself questions like, why are we there? Why are we doing this? Like, I've spent 3 years in this place, like nothing really happened. Then I was being told that they're terrorists and they're violent and they want to throw us out of this land. But in fact, I was part of the mechanism who was inflicting violence upon them on a daily basis. After I finished these 3 years of service, I found myself arriving to Burning Man Festival, a festival about creativity and coming together as equals, where no one asks you where you are, where you come from. And I had a really interesting thing happening to me there. I remember I saw a woman I was really interested in and tried to impress her. And I said, yeah, I'm an ex-infantry soldier. And I saw her just looking at me in a very weird and even scared way and just walked the other way. And suddenly I looked within myself and like, am I the bad guy? Am I not the hero that I was being told back home that I am? And this fraction of starting to see that maybe this story that I've been told and this reality that I grew up in might not be exactly what reality is. And experiencing Burning Man brought me back home to create the Israeli version of Burning Man, the Midburn project. This experience was a really fascinating journey that took around 8 years of my life. where we wanted to build a culture out of scratch. This whole thing of creating a cultural festival that is not based on money. It's like there's no, the income doesn't go to our pockets. There's no profit in it. We just do it because we want to have this culture. Whatever you bring to this is what you have. So everyone, in a way, I've learned while building this festival, this community in Israel, that it's not managed in a central way. Whatever you bring is what you have in the event. So if someone wants to bring something and create a gift into community and lead something into a manifestation, it's up to me or up to him to create it. And there's a whole community who supports this act of bringing your art, creating a bar, putting up a show, and it's all up for the community to enjoy. Some of the principles that I'm very connected within the Burning Man culture is the principles of participation, gifting, and community effort that all together enable people to bring themselves forward and bring whatever they want to life and have a lot of support. Just a quick question. Does people here know about the Burning Man project? Should I elaborate more about it?
Yeah, we know about Burning. I mean, I know about Burning Man at least, yeah.
Okay. So the thing that I think I've learned, the biggest lesson I've learned there is what we called back then duocracy. If you want to see something happen, just do it. Just do it, and if the community likes it, the community is going to support it. Everyone is invited to play, everyone is invited to bring themselves forward. And in the way of creating these events, these festivals, these gatherings, we were learning as a group how to cooperate without the motivations of earning money that we were told, in real life. This whole process of creating this festival that is temporary. There's this big structure of a man that is getting burned. In a way, it symbolizes your ego that is being burned. It's not about you. Being part of this process is not exactly about you. It's about being part of something a little bit bigger that also always changes. Yeah, this is a photo, for example, from our first official meat burn event in the Israeli desert. And in a way, for me, it really symbolizes, how one person idea to build this sculpture could never come to life without, at this point, almost a quarter of the participants pulling it and helping it come to life. In a way, this thing enabled people to experiment, to be creative, and also to fail in a safe space. Like, it's fine. There's not a big investment. You can fail. You can do something, and it doesn't have to work. Like, the whole thing is how you create it together, how you bring it forward to the community. So for me, Midburn was my school of leadership with no hierarchy. Like, how can you lead when no one really have to listen to you? Like, you have this concept that if you win, everybody wins. If you give people around you the support, the tools, the opportunity to succeed, you all advance together and create a notion of abundance. And suddenly one day you can be the leader and someone else another day can be the leader and you support them. Learning how to support people in a group around me to take leadership made me understand that our success depends on the journey and not on our goals. Participatory leadership creates a living organism from a group and not this hierarchical structure. But if the top of the pyramid doesn't work, then the rest of the group or the organization or the community doesn't work. And throughout my journey in Midburn, I was the art director there. I was mainly in charge of the whole artistic projects. I met a few Palestinian people who were very curious about this creation of a Burning Man culture within Israel. They were very skeptical, but there was a little bit of people from the Palestinian community who were interested and slowly integrated into also some of the leadership roles over there. And in some cases along the years, I found myself drawn to the struggles as Arabs living in a Jewish Israeli society and how it clashed with the Midburn Project. We were trying to create an event that is all about freedom, but it was mainly led by Jewish Israeli ex-soldiers who were very used to the army-like power structures, and Palestinian people who tried to join and you know, believed the values of freedom that the Burning Man world is, suddenly found themselves within a structure that is in many ways very similar to the Israeli army structure. Because the people, most of the Jewish citizens of Israel serve the army, and we have built what we know, you know, like, and the power structure who was created to produce an event like this was very, very similar to the army. And I found myself suddenly defending my Palestinians friends in different occasions, and slowly connecting more and more to their narratives, slowly discovering this whole peace movement world, the anti-conflict movement, and in the course of a few years, I found myself integrating out of the Midburn world and more into the conflict resistance, peace world around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Around 2 years after I left Midburn leadership, I found myself creating an art festival in Amsterdam in the attempt to support the struggle of the free spaces communities in Amsterdam. So as I was traveling the world a little bit and researching about communities, I found this very interesting community called ADM in Amsterdam, who was around for 32 years, was created by anarchists who wanted to live in a free space. And this whole notion of what I started to understand about participatory leadership and no hierarchy, they were very much embodying it. I have a small clip from this community just to get the sense of what they created over there. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Yes, there was.
I think the ADM is like place. It's like you know, ADM got like so much freedom, just like freedom to be who you want to be, and freedom to do what you want to do. Freedom to be, freedom to be, freedom to be, freedom to be who you want to be, who you want to be, who you want to be, who you want to be. Freedom to do, freedom to do, freedom to do what you want to do, what you want to do, what you want to do, what you want to do. It's really nice living in a community together with people that are like have the same ideas and work together and create like a beautiful community. It's magic, like working together, work together, work together, work together, work together, 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 together. Like a dream, like a dream. like a dream, like a dream, like a dream.
So experiencing these communities in Amsterdam and the way that they found themselves free from, trying to get free from all these power structures and enabling them really to experience hierarchy-less way of living, anarchy as some of them say, was for me very, very different from coming from a place like the Middle East, a place like Israel, living in a society who's very violent, very conflicted. And over my time there, I met this Jordanian girl who invited me to a gathering in Wadi Ram, the desert in Jordan. And I think for the first time in my life, I find myself spending a week in the desert with people from all over the Middle East. People that just before that I thought I'll have the chance to meet only in war times. I couldn't imagine myself, spending time meeting friends across these borders. And when I met this amazing group of activists and free-minded people from Palestine, from Jordan, from Egypt, from Turkey, from Morocco, from many countries around the region, I was very, very inspired. And when talking with the people, especially the people coming from Israel and Palestine, I heard they're very discouraged. A lot of them were burned out. A lot of them were fighting this conflict for many years and feeling alone, feeling depressed, feeling that they don't have any support. And coming from this background of arts and culture and festivals and the Burning Man world, I felt a very big calling to try to see if these methods have created a worldwide community from the Burning Man world, and managed to gather people from various backgrounds and different beliefs around these 10 principles of a culture, and create this event that copies himself all over the world. I was very curious to see if I can try and create this within the Middle East, within the peace activists, especially in Israel and Palestine, and in a way create a notion of community and support in this very difficult field. And when I was researching a little bit about all the methods that were used in the past, many people, especially after the 90s, where we had the Oslo peace agreements and there was almost a foreseeable peace within the Israeli-Palestinian community, there were a lot of these peace programs were formed. These programs where people come together from both sides, the Palestinians and the Israeli, to discuss, to get to know each other, to share each other narratives. But rarely you could see programs or initiatives that creates a new narrative for both of these communities to work together. This was always two communities talking to each other with a very facilitated program, where you come as a participant and you go through this process with someone built for you. And when you finish, you might have met a few people from the other community. You might have a little bit better understanding, but usually there was no path to create a new reality, to overcome this conflict, only to share each other's stories in a very facilitated way. And what I've learned from the Burning Man world is that this is not the way to create something bigger. This is not the way to create a shared community. And I've started organizing basically these participatory based gatherings, whose everyone is invited to bring themselves forward. I would invite the right people, people hopefully from various backgrounds and various countries in the region, and give a very, very wide structure of just a place and the days and food, and people would just create whatever they wanted in it. And suddenly, you had people from different sides meeting and trying to understand together, how do they want this space to see? How do they want, what culture do they want to create in this space? And interacting in ways they weren't used to interact. And from each gathering, I've encouraged the people that I saw that are taking leadership roles to take more responsibility and more leadership, and integrate them in different gatherings and events that we've done along the way. Now we're pretty much after 2 years of building a coalition of activists, artists, and entrepreneurs from across the border, with no clear structure or hierarchy. It's really interesting, because every time we tried to create a hierarchy structure, mainly people from more of the Western side, or let's say the Jewish, the Israeli side, we were met with our partners telling us, like, these are the structures that they want to break. They don't want any hierarchy. And in a way, being in this process for 2 years of creating these gatherings and creating trust and allowing leadership from different participants, sometimes there's a lot of stress and anxiety around this. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We know that what we do is sometimes dangerous if you're not cautioned, and in the way we act. You know, in some countries we need to be more secretive about what we're doing. In some countries it's more easy. Some people are more open-minded, and some people come from more closed families or societies. And there's a lot of responsibility, but there's a lot also a factor of letting the anxiety of the unknown be a companion along the way. It's something that you learn to live with when you understand that there's not an ability to create a master plan. It's just to enforce the people around you and support them in their own acts of leadership, and enable this community to grow, and enable the trust to be built, in order to create opportunity of something new that can be built, a vision of a shared community between conflicted countries. I can share that one of the projects, the biggest projects that I'm working right now, is building a project that is called the Lighthouse. Is building a place for Middle Eastern activists, a little bit outside the region, in Cyprus, a place that people can come from all over the region to prototype and experiment around community building, around leadership, in a safe space, and hopefully allow the growth of new leaders that can change the reality that we face here today. And that's pretty much what I had ready to say. This is our camp, our Middle Eastern camp at Burning Man last year. So people from Israel, Palestine, Jordan, UAE, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, Europe, United States, all together trying to do peace activism in more creative ways.
Nice. Thank you, man. It was really interesting.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you again. Hope we'll catch up again in other sessions as well. I believe it's time for the next session, right?
Oh, it's already time.
I'm gonna be leaving to another room. I'll see you, Sharon. Nice to meet
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Nice meeting you. Here.
You.